Wow, well, how can I follow that acting? I always knew we were on for a good thing when Jeremiah took on the role of Saul. You know, he knows what to do. Brilliant. We've been looking at our theme of a new beginning. And it's interesting how God works. When we were planning this, I really felt like God wanted me to do the talky bit. And I thought, okay, right, so I probably need to, really look at the verse, get a bit of Hebrew in. Oh, but I've got to think about the children, that whole thing. And then it was really interesting because every time I tried to add anything to what I'd already written, it didn't feel right. And I realised that actually what God wanted me to do this morning was share my testimony, which is really interesting, isn't it? Because I think maybe some of us don't feel like we have a testimony because, we're just getting on with life and these things happen. And, and actually, as I began to think on this verse, which has been such a significant verse for me in the last couple of years, I realised that actually I needed to share the new thing that God did for me in the hope that you too, if whatever age you are, if you are struggling and you feel like something new needs to happen, you will have some faith that God will do it. We've looked at this key verse, and I do think it's really useful to put it into context. So this verse was given to Isaiah from God, it was a message of hope for the Israelites. Because it was a message that said, once God's judgment, once this exile is out of the way, then God will do a new thing. And it also, Isaiah points us to the most amazing new thing that God did, which is, of course, the answer to every question, Jesus. So, what I want to tell you about me. On the January the 1st in 2017, I was working in a school as a full-time teacher. Unfortunately, I was working in quite a toxic environment. And it was having quite an impact on our family life and also my own mental health. I questioned my career choice daily, and my confidence as a teacher and as a leader, because I was in a leadership position at that school, was at an all-time low. And I was at church, I can't remember whether it was a Sunday or we came in for church, and I looked that morning on the Bible app, as you do, and the key verse for today was the verse that came up. For I'm about to do something new. See, I have already begun. Do you not see it? I will make a pathway through the wilderness. I will create rivers in the dry land. That verse spoke so clearly into the situation I was in. And I was excited at the prospect of this new thing. Even though I couldn't actually see a way in the wilderness, it was quite a wilderness. But I thought, this is it. 2017, God's going to do it. It's going to be sorted. It's going to be brilliant. He just told me he was going to do a new thing. By the end of the academic year, I had negotiated working mornings only, and the position of leadership I was in was given to someone else. I thought, brilliant result. Also, I thought. Fast forward 6 weeks into the new term, the school is in chaos, people have left, and I'm back in my old role, working 5 days of part-time work. A temporary position that was going to last me for the whole of that academic year. I couldn't understand why. Well, you just said you were going to do a new thing. I could see some new things happening, but none of this is benefiting me. It's quite stressful. By January the 1st, 2018, I was struggling again. My confidence was shaken, and I couldn't see God's new thing at all. Guess what? That morning, I opened my Bible app, and that verse was on it again. For I am about to do something new. See, I have already begun. Do you not see it? I will make a pathway through the wilderness. I will create rivers in the dry land. I was floored. Was it a coincidence? Or was God trying to tell me something? At the end of that academic year, I had left the school completely and took a term off just to be me. I was a mum again. My children were pleased, I think, and a wife, and I sewed a lot, and I rested, and I thought, here we go, God's going to show me the new thing, isn't he? January the 1st, 2019, different verse this time. And I knew I had to go back to work. Financially, my lovely term off was great, but wasn't sustainable really. And I thought, well, maybe just leaving that environment is God's new thing. But I couldn't shake this feeling that there was something else that God wanted. I just couldn't work out what it was. I ended up going back to teaching and working my way through the joy that was COVID at a lovely supportive school with colleagues that I had worked with years ago, and my confidence came back. I had a much better work-life balance, and remind me why we actually then moved house and got a dog, because that changed that. And I still felt, though, that something new was going to happen. It was finally in October 2021, after another conversation about me not really wanting to go to work in the school anymore, that Adam said, well, what do you want to do? For as long as I can remember, I had been waiting for God to show me what it was, to produce this new thing out of thin air and go, there you go. And I believe that God can do that. And I believe he will do it. But sometimes I think he wants us to think, to take the initiative, to look at what he's placed in our hearts. And one of the joys for me in lockdown, there were some, particularly the first one when it was sunny, was Small Nations. Our online kids ministry, amen, was amazing. I loved working with such a creative team, even at a distance, and to share Jesus. And it sparked a real desire in me. And I realised I still wanted to teach, just not in a school. And I wanted to teach children about Jesus. And so this new thing began. A leap of faith from Billy and the elders. And here I am in my role, nearly 2 years later, as the All Nations Children Family Worker. 2017 me would not have seen that coming at all. So what about you? Where are you in your journey of something new? Are you waiting for that something new? Are you looking for things to change, but no idea how or when? Do you feel that God may have completely forgotten you in the chaos? Are you about to start something new, or are you in the middle of something new? Paul went through a dramatic change that happened very, very quickly. But for other people, that change takes a lot longer. When God gives you a new start, a new beginning, your opportunities will probably look completely different to somebody else's because it depends on you in your season. But the thing to remember is that when God gives you that new opportunity, grab it with both hands because this is God's plan for you. And it might be a bit of a leap of faith on your part, on somebody else's part, but God, if God's in it, then it will happen. When God gives you a new beginning, remember to keep linked to him. Make sure you're talking to him, getting his direction. And when God gives you a new beginning, share your testimony. Vicky.